The efficiency of small spaces was the selling point. The agent called it cozy, intimate, a cocoon for the modern urbanite. What she really meant was cheap. Cheap enough that it felt suspicious, but I didn't ask questions. I signed the lease. The apartment was a converted textile mill. A single, open-plan box of concrete floor, exposed brick, and walls painted the color of dirty dishwater. The bathroom was the only room with a door. Everything else flowed together, with nowhere to hide and nowhere to escape. The building itself was steel and concrete, brutalist, efficient, quiet. No creaks, no groans, just the constant distant hum of the HVAC system, a sound so steady it faded into the background. The first strange thing was the dresser. A simple IKEA malm. Every time I vacuumed, I pulled it exactly 2 inches from the wall, cleaned behind it, and pushed it back flush. I'm meticulous like that, but one Tuesday, I noticed it was 4 inches out. I pushed it back and ignored it. The next week, it was 4 inches out again. And the week after that, always the same distance. Never more, never less. As if something behind the wall was slowly expanding, then relaxing again. Then there was the crawl space. A small square panel in the ceiling of my walk-in closet, marked with a recessed metal ring. The inspector called it plumbing access, even though the pipes were nowhere near it. I tugged on it once. It didn't open. A month later, I noticed the ring was greasy. The residue was dark and slick. Not oil, thicker, organic. It smelled faintly of metal and sour sweat. I washed my hands 3 times, but the smell lingered. One night, I noticed the small window above my shower was open. I assumed I'd forgotten to close it. I told myself that was normal. Then I started hearing the sound. Not footsteps, not whispers. A wet, muffled popping noise. Like knuckles cracking, but slower, deeper, fleshy. I heard it at night, coming from the ceiling. Sometimes from inside the wall behind my television. My landlord blamed the pipes. But pipes don't sound like joints refusing to bend. I stopped sleeping well. Then the bruises appeared. On my forearm, on my shins, perfectly oval, symmetrical, deep purple fading to yellow. My doctor called them pressure contusions, said it looked like something heavy had been resting on me for a long time, in my sleep. The shape of the bruises matched exactly where hands and feet might press to steady a body leaning over another person. I realized then that I wasn't alone. I started sleeping with a knife. I started setting traps, a strand of hair across the crawlspace seam, a coin balanced against the wall. The hair disappeared. The coin fell. One day, while cleaning behind the old radiator, I found a photograph. It was blurry, low quality, printed on thick paper. It was me, asleep in my bed, taken from above. I followed the angle of the shot to the ventilation grate in my ceiling. The slats were too narrow for a hand, and yet the picture existed. I called the police. They found no forced entry, no fingerprints, nothing wrong with the crawl space, nothing wrong with the apartment. They looked at me the way you look at someone you don't quite believe. After they left, I locked the door and shoved a chair under the handle. I sat on my bed and stared at the ceiling. One night, the HVAC system shut off completely. The silence was unbearable. It felt intentional, like something was listening. I left the apartment for 10 minutes, just to breathe. When I came back, the kitchen light was on. I never leave that light on. The apartment felt wrong, heavy, expectant. As I moved toward the counter where my knives were, I noticed the kick plate under the cabinets was ajar, just 4 inches. Then a hand slid out. Long fingers, dirty nails, pale skin stretched too tight over bone. Another hand followed, and then he emerged. A man folded himself out of the space like something unfinished. His joints bent the wrong way. His body popped and shifted as he unfolded. He was thin, middle-aged, wearing a stained undershirt and pants worn soft with age. He looked terrified to see me. I grabbed the knife. He didn't run for the door. He ran for the bathroom. I followed, watching as he jumped for the small window above the shower. He dislocated his shoulders without flinching and slid through the opening like liquid. He was gone. Later, the police arrested him. His name was Ruben Cooke, a former demolition worker with a rare connective tissue disorder, hyperflexible joints, elastic skin, a man who had surgically altered his own body to fit into spaces no human should. They told me he lived in walls, crawl spaces, ceilings, watching people for months. They found a box hidden in my apartment. Inside were my personal items, my toothbrush, my hair, and my spare key. He'd had it the entire time. I live somewhere else now, a house with no crawl spaces, no attic, no basement. But I still measure everything: door gaps, cabinet spaces, vent openings, because I learned something I can't unlearn. A man doesn't need much space to exist, and if you listen closely enough, you can always hear them adjusting, cracking, folding, waiting.